So thank you for everyone that decided to take some time to join us today. For those that I haven't met yet, my name is Gina Peterson. I am a loan officer. I've been a loan officer for 20 plus years, and I work closely with agents like you to help create more opportunities for your clients, especially in today's evolving market. I'm really excited about today's session because reverse mortgages are one of the most underutilized tools in real estate. When understood correctly, they can open doors for senior homeowners, help solve affordability challenges, and even create new purchase opportunities that many agents aren't tapping into. That's exactly why I brought my guy, Tim Kennedy, who specializes in this space. I'd like to introduce him. He is an expert in reverse mortgage solutions, and he will be walking you through how these products actually work and how they can benefit your clients, and most importantly, how you can confidently position yourself in your business when sitting down with somebody that feels stuck and feels as though there's no solutions for them. One of the reasons is, I meet with clients all the time that are in this age bracket, and I find that I would not be able to help them to the traditional way. Then I always incorporate Tim to come in and save the day. So here's Tim, and I encourage you to keep an open mind, take notes, and then save your questions. This is going to be a conversational. So if you have questions, just chime in the chat. And yeah.
All right. So Gina, thank you very much. Thank you for coordinating this, and I appreciate everybody taking time out of the day to be on this call, because it is a pretty hot topic. And not only is it a hot topic, but it's a very misunderstood topic, for multiple reasons, for homeowners or consumers, help them age in place and maintain financial dependence, for financial advisors and legal professionals on how a reverse mortgage can help their clients, increase the probability of their money lasting longer in retirement. And last but not least, for the real estate agent, especially in today's market, with the interest rates where they're at, and the affordability of homes, and the market itself, and the what's it called, right? Well, the access of houses on the market, right? It's so limited. But the idea of the reverse for purchase, ideally, is to help you as real estate agents, is how can we educate you, and how can we help you find more listings, find more buyers, and actually increase your buyer's purchase power, right? Because, for example, if you call Gina and say, I have a client on a fixed income wants to purchase a home, they may or may not qualify for a traditional forward mortgage, a conventional loan, or an FHA loan. But with a reverse mortgage, because we're not necessarily looking at a strict debt to income ratio or a strict FICO score, they may qualify for the mortgage. Not only that, but they might even qualify for more, right? You may be looking at a house range of 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, which they're hard to find. But with the reverse for purchase, we might be able to find them a house in a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 range without the obligation of a principal and interest payment. And that's really the crux of all of this. Now, there's a lot of people on the call, so Gina and myself will try and keep an eye in the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it into the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions on the go instead of difficult to hear what you're saying. All right. If I can adjust my sound. Does anybody else have issues with hearing me?
No one else was.
I hear you. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let me do this. And on this call, it's primarily real estate agents, Gina?
Yes.
Okay.
This is NCJAR, North Central Jersey Association of Realtors.
Okay. So, boy, we're getting some good questions already. So, yes, the home equity conversion mortgage is an adjustable rate mortgage, okay, for multiple reasons, give you a lot more flexibility. There is a fixed rate option, which we can discuss. I'm just having an issue getting my power off. I don't know why it's off to the side. Let me see if I hit share. Sharing is not turned on. Okay, if you could allow me to share, that'd be great. So what are
Not
the
letting you.
biggest,
It's not letting you share your screen.
yeah, let me go back again. Let me go in.
So say it at the bottom with that green button. Yes. Hold on. Should be there for you.
No, no.
There you go. It's only a portion of Homeowner.
Yeah, why is that happening? Oh, they.
Why is it?
Okay, so let's discuss how the reverse mortgage works, okay? The biggest misconception with the reverse mortgage, right? I'm sure a lot of you will raise your hands, is the bank or the government will take over home ownership of the home. That's the furthest from the truth. The truth is the homeowner always maintains home ownership. The reverse mortgage that we're discussing today primarily is the home equity conversion mortgage. HECM, HECM, for all of us on this call, reverse mortgage, right? The reverse mortgage, in all intents purposes, is a mortgage, is a lien against the house that will be required to be paid at some time at a later date, usually when that last surviving spouse leaves that home permanently, whether they leave the home because they're going to do assisted living or God has other plans for them and decides to take them home. At that point in time, the house would get sold, and then any remaining equity in that home would go back to the estate, right? Back to the heirs. We are discussing the home equity conversion mortgage. I'm going to pull up another screen. Let's see if this works better. So there's a lot of advantages on why a reverse for purchase would work for you or for your particular client, right? But let's go through the misconceptions. Number one, the homeowner still owns the home. Okay. Number two, a reverse mortgage is no longer a last resort or last ditch effort to keep somebody in the home. It's their home. Okay. They can live in that home for the duration of their life. But recent math has told us that a reverse mortgage is much more beneficial earlier in retirement. A lot of people are concerned with the reverse mortgage. Oh my goodness, I'm going to leave debt to my children. Well, the truth of the matter is a reverse mortgage is a non-recourse loan. Nobody is personally responsible for the debt. The sale of the home is responsible for the debt. A
Tim,
lot of people, yes.
I'm sorry, your PowerPoint is not showing.
Yeah, I can't get it on the screen. I'm not too sure why. So I'm just kind of just going through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like cut. I'm trying to see why it's
Yeah,
cut off.
I'm not too
Looks
sure.
like
Yeah,
it's zoomed in.
let me try this. Bank of the government will own the home? No. Reverse mortgage is of last resort? No. Will I leave debt to my children? No. Okay. Are reverse mortgage expensive? Not necessarily. What would happen if you didn't take out the reverse mortgage? Number one. Number two, just clear this. Number two is a reverse mortgage closing cost isn't much different than the standard FHA loan that Gina offers. So, for example, Gina, the mortgage insurance on an FHA loan is about 1.75%.
The upfront, yes. Mm-hmm.
So the upfront mortgage insurance on a reverse mortgage is 2%. So it's only a quarter of a point higher. Okay, so it's not that much different than a traditional forward mortgage. The reason we're discussing the reverse mortgage with you today, because we feel it's a beneficial tool to help you with clients find the home that will satisfy their wants and needs in retirement without the obligation of a principal and interest. So most people don't realize this or understand it, but the baby boomers today are still the biggest demographic of home buyers and home sellers today. And when you get my PowerPoint in the email, there's a slide there that shows, I believe, 46% of home buyers today are over the age of 62, and home sellers today are about 60%. So the baby boomers are still our bread and butter, and we really need to figure out how we can help them, relocate or however way they want to live their life in retirement, age in place, wherever that place may be. It could be the house that they're currently in, or maybe they want to move into something else, right? So why are they the biggest demographic? Because they have a lot going on in their lives, right? For example, myself, my wife and I, we're both 60. My wife will kill me for telling you that. But we're both 60. We're in a 2-story, 3,200 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath with a center hall colonial. We need this house right now like we need a home man. What are we going to do, right? Are we going to right size and maybe go into something a little smaller, maybe on a one level? Are we going to move closer to our children? Or are we going to go for bust? Are we going to sell this home and upgrade and go to the golf course and the gated community and the clubhouse and the pool and no maintenance? These are all the reasons why, homeowners over today are selling their homes and relocating. I don't know about you, but homes today, well, the over 55 developments are popping up all over the place here on Long Island. Gina, I'm sure they're popping up all over the place by you. And I'm sure the 30-something people on this call could agree to that as well. Well, the reverse for purchase can help you get into those developments, because we can help these individuals over the age of 62 purchase these homes, qualify for a mortgage, and not have the obligation of a principal and interest payment. That's really the goal behind all of this. I'm going to pull up, let me see. Let me go through the questions real quick. I see a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tim, I can read them and then
Okay.
share them with you.
Okay, let's
Number
do that then.
one, let's start from the top. Is the loan an adjustable rate?
Yes, 99% of the reverse mortgages today are adjustable rate mortgages. There is a fixed rate option, but it's not feasible because you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Okay, so ideally, the best scenario is the adjustable rate. It maximizes the money. Okay, and the rate will adjust. There are caps on that rate, so it's not going to get to 18, 19, 20% like it did back in the 80s. Next question.
Mm-hmm. Do you need additional insurance?
No. So there is mortgage insurance. And then,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you will need your traditional homeowners insurance. And if it's a condo or a townhouse association, you'd have HOA fees. But that's separate of the reverse mortgage.
Okay. What are the options for fixed rate
Yeah,
reverse mortgage? I think you explained that a little bit in the last question, right?
I can just put the slides to oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
What are the options for fixed rate reverse mortgage?
Okay, so the issue with the fixed rate mortgage is even though you may qualify for a reverse mortgage of 100,000 for argument's sake, because it's a fixed rate and it's an FHA guideline that only allow you 60% of that 100,000. So even though you qualify for 100,000, we would only give you 60,000 of it. And in essence, you're leaving $40,000 on the table. So the benefit of the adjustable rate mortgages is you get 100% of the money that you qualify for.
Mm-hmm. How does the loan get repaid, and when if the equity value dips and the outstanding loan balance is higher?
Okay, great question.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, okay,
Mm-hmm.
number one, how does the reverse mortgage get paid back? A reverse mortgage gets paid back when the last surviving spouse leaves that home, okay, permanently, whether they sell, go into assisted living, or pass away. The estate then has 6 months to sell that home and pay back the reverse mortgage. Any remaining equity in that home would go back to the estate or to the heirs. That's number one. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, you can live in that home up until your 150th birthday. So when you turn 150, give me a call and we'll figure out what plan B is, right? What happened if there's a downturn in the market? That's a great question. Now, can you guys see my new screen that I have up here?
Yes.
Good. Okay, because I'm going to work out of this from here. So if there was a downturn in the market, and it's conceivable, but in today's market, not necessarily, if the reverse mortgage exceeded the value of the home, again, the reverse mortgage is a non-recourse loan. So you, your estate, your heirs, nobody is personally responsible for the debt. The sale of the home is responsible for the debt. So you will not leave any debt to your children. Did that answer the question, Gina?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I also want to chime in and say that the the main borrower could be 62 and older, but the spouse could be half that age. And
Yes.
as long as they're a spouse, that spouse can in turn live in that property till they're 150.
Right. So a great point, Gina. So there's two reasons why reverse mortgages today carry such a negative connotation. And I'm sure most of you on this call are well aware of that. There's two reasons. Number one, 20 years ago, if one spouse was over the age of 62 and the other spouse was under the age of 62, we took that underage spouse off the title of the house and they were not on the loan. So if and when something happened to that borrowing spouse, that non-borrowing spouse had no rights to the home, and the loan was due and payable, and they were required to pay that mortgage back or go into foreclosure. Taboo,
Yep.
right? Totally taboo. That's what we got. We got the biggest black eye possible because of that guideline. Well, in the last 10 years or so, we now have what they call non-borrowing spouse provisions, where the non-borrowing spouse, if they're under the age of 62, is now protected. They remain on the deed of the home. They won't go on the mortgage because they're not 62. But if and when something happened to that borrowing spouse, the non-borrowing spouse under the age of 62 still remains in that home. It's their home. They can live there for the duration of their lives. And their only responsibility, just like everyone else on this call, is pay your taxes and insurance and maintain the property. The
Yeah.
other thing,
Thank you.
Gina, while I'm on it, I'll cover it, is financial assessment. 20 years ago, if you were breathing, owned a home, and were over the age of 62, we lent you and gave you a reverse mortgage, regardless of your situation, right? You could be on the courthouse steps in foreclosure. We walked in with the documentation, saved the house with a reverse mortgage. But guess what happened? A year or two later, they're right back where they were. They got to foreclosure, they lost the house, they blamed the reverse mortgage. And think about it. We lent money to somebody that was breathing on the homes over the age of 62. It's almost barbaric that we did that. So now they have what they call a financial assessment. So yeah, we're going to look at their income, we're going to look at their credit, but it's not necessarily as strict as what Gina would go through with debt to income ratios and FICO scores and guidelines. We just want to show that you can pay your taxes and insurance, put food on the table, pay your utilities, and live a normal life, right? So it's not as strict.
Yeah. I also want to add to that, there are some provisions for somebody that does have an reverse. If they're not apt to paying bills, you put a provision in there where you set money aside for their escrows to be paid, right?
Yes. So for example, if you failed financial assessment, it's not you're not necessarily declined for the reverse mortgage. But what we would do then is we would take a portion of the proceeds that you qualify for, apply those to what we call a LISA, a life expectancy set aside, and then we would put that money to the side, and then we would be responsible to pay your taxes and insurance. Because that's where everybody got in trouble with the reverse mortgage. They weren't able to pay their taxes and insurance, and therefore they went into foreclosure. I always ask this question, Gene, I don't know if I've asked the question with you on the call, but does anybody, and you can put the number in the chat, how many people have lost their home because of a reverse mortgage? We don't want to answer that question?
I wouldn't. It's none of your business.
The answer to that question is zero. Okay, nobody has ever lost their home because of a reverse mortgage. They've lost their home because they couldn't pay their taxes and insurance, or maybe the last surviving spouse passed away, and then at that point in time, after they passed away, the mortgage became due and payable, and then the house went into foreclosure. But nobody was displaced or evicted from that home. Okay, so that's an interesting stat.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm just going to go through some stuff here, and this is like live, demonstrations of how the reverse mortgage would work. But you have to remember, in your scenario now, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get more listings. We're trying to find more buyers. We're trying to figure out what house is best for your buyer, which may be a higher priced house. Okay. Why are they relocating? Why are they moving? Well, they want to move closer to family, right? They want to move closer to the children, the grandchildren. Maybe they're in the mid to late 60s, they're still working, they're relocating because of their job. They're downsizing, or we like to say right sizing. Like they want to find a house that fits their needs at this time in their lives. Maybe they're upsizing, right? My in-laws, for example, they had a home here in Long Island, $700,000. He was tired of the maintenance and the in-ground pool and all that other stuff, and they ended up upgrading and purchasing a home in a golf community on the 10th hole with a gated community golf club and a pool and all that stuff. Last but not least, you know why people are relocating in their 60s and 70s today? Divorce. Gray divorce. It's rampant. I have a client now, he's 72. His wife is 69. His 69-year-old wife went home to her 50-year something high school reunion and fell back in love with her high school boyfriend. And now she wants a divorce. Right? At 69 years old, she's leaving her husband of 40 years to go back with her high school love. And it happens all the time. And what do they do with their biggest asset? Their house. Right? For most of us, 70% of our net worth is tied up in the equity of their home. And in this particular situation, this gentleman wants to stay in his home. He's going to pay off the wife and stay in his home with the reverse mortgage. But here's where it's important for you to understand and why maybe having a relationship or a referral source of a divorce attorney or a mediation professional is, what do they do with their house? Well, in most scenarios, one wants to stay, so we can give them a reverse mortgage. They can stay in that home, give half the proceeds to the departing spouse. And now you can come in and help that departing spouse purchase a home with the reverse for purchase. Because remember, they may not qualify for Gina anymore because they have half the income and half the liquidity, right? But I can help them with the reverse for purchase. Here's your best case scenario. They both have to sell the house. Now you get the listing. Now you have two departing spouses, right? They both want to purchase a home. Well, they may not qualify traditionally because they don't have the income, but you might be able to help them purchase a home with the reverse for purchase. So you went from 0 leads to 1 lead to possibly 3 with the relationship with the divorce attorney. Okay. So let me show you. Does anybody have any questions with any of that? I see one popped up here. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, will you want to save them for the end or intersperse them throughout the presentation?
Gina, if you happen to catch one that is relative to what I'm talking about, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Let's just start on this one since you're talking about listings and everybody getting a home. Does the homeowner need to have paid off their existing home loan? And how does the real estate agent get paid if the homeowner decides to do reverse mortgage and stay on.
Okay, so let me figure out that question. So with the let's answer question number one. With the reverse mortgage, any mandatory obligations on the reverse mortgage have to get paid for. So we're talking about somebody that lives in a home, wants to stay in that home primarily, or if they're going to sell that home and purchase something else, yes, that existing mortgage would get paid back. And then, and let me demonstrate it this way. So in this scenario, I have Carol Ann, right? She owns $1 million home, and she has an existing lien of $100,000. So Gina, this will answer your question.
Okay.
In this scenario, she would qualify for $344,000. We would pay off the existing lien of $100,000. And now this particular client would have an available line of credit of roughly $212,000 that you can use and access. And this is primarily an example of somebody that wants to stay in their home. They want to age in place. So based on this diagram, on day one, we're paying off the existing mortgage of $100,000 and the closing costs of roughly $30,000. And they have a line of credit of $212,000. And she no longer has to make that principal and interest payment on that $100,000 mortgage. But here's the magic of this reverse mortgage for this individual that wants to stay in the house. If you see the green, that's the line of credit. So on day one, they qualify for $212,000. But look what happens over time. In year 5, for example, that $212,000 is now $304,000. And that's the magic behind the reverse mortgage today, is that line of credit and that guaranteed growth rate factor that they can access sometime later in life, especially if they needed some sort of long-term care. Let's say, for example, at 83, they needed long-term care, never had a long-term care policy. Well, now they have $778,000 that they can access tax-free that can help support their long-term care needs, whether it's remodeling the home for handicap accessibility, or maybe they need somebody in the house 8 hours a day for home care, or 24/7. For example, at 95, that's $1.8 million they could use for 24/7 home care. Okay.
So there's another question in regard to that. What
Okay.
if equity runs out before the owner runs out?
Okay, so as long as that owner is paying their taxes and insurance, they can still live in that home for the duration of their life. They may not have any more access from the funds, but they can still live in that home. It's their home. And they can live in there until they leave that home permanently. Does that answer your question? Does that answer the question?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to why we're here. Let's talk about the reverse for purchase. Okay, so I'm still talking to Carol Ann. Carol Ann still has $1 million home. There's $100,000 mortgage that we're going to pay off. You're sitting at the kitchen table doing a listing presentation. And Carol says, boy, Crystal, I would love to sell my house and relocate, but I can't afford it. I can't afford to stay in this home. I can't afford to leave this home. And you're going to say, hey, I have a good idea. I need you to keep an open mind. And I may have a loan for you that's a payment option loan, where on months you don't have to make a payment. And on months when you're flush, you can make a payment. And that's the reverse mortgage, basically. They're not obligated to make monthly payments. And that's the magic behind this. And this is that if we present this correctly to the homeowner, we can help them list that home and now purchase something that's going to satisfy their wants and needs in retirement. So here's how it works. Let's do the math. Okay, in this scenario, okay, Carol is selling her $1 million home, and she's purchasing a Let's go to a 500,000 because 300,000 is unreasonable.
Right.
She is going to purchase a $500,000 home somewhere else. So I'm going to use 7%. That's going to cover the real estate fees and moving fees and any other costs. That means she's going to walk out of there. She's going to net $830,000. So now here's where, as real estate agents, this is where you can help them immensely. Not only find the house that they want, but help them with their overall retirement plan. Instead of Carol paying $500,000 cash and only leaving herself with $330,000 to live off in retirement, you are going to suggest, hey, let's do this reverse for purchase. The bank is going to lend you $149,770. You are only going to use $350,000 from the $830 from the sale of your previous home. And now we'll lend you the $149. You put down the $350. And now you're in this $500,000 home without a principal and interest payment. And the best part is you now have roughly $480,000 that you can put into a retirement account. Now you look like what you just did for these people, because you were able to sell their home, find a home that they wanted or needed, closer to family, whatever their reason was, okay, and they're able to keep a bulk of the proceeds from the sale of their existing home. Everybody wins on every step of the way, right? Let's say, for example, now you can't find a house for $500,000, right? It's not a situation if you raise the purchase price that Carol Ann will no longer be able to afford it. Like with Gina, if you're looking at a $500,000 house, now going to a $600,000 house, that borrower may not qualify for traditional FHA or conventional loan. But here, all we're doing is taking a little bit more money from that $830. So now you just went from a $500,000 purchase to a $600,000 purchase. This is where we're increasing their purchase power. Now she has to put down $418,000. We're going to lend them from the reverse mortgage $181,000. And she still gets to give $411,000 to her financial advisor or put it in the bank. I'm covering a lot of stuff. I think I may be going too fast, right? But I just want to take a breather, take a breath. And Gina, why don't you ask me a couple more questions?
Sure. So the question is, how is the balance of what is owed to the bank repaid if the market dips?
Okay, let's go back to that question. So in this scenario, let's go here. So in this scenario, on day one, right, we lent her $206,000. Okay, there's still $393,000 of equity in this home. We're assuming that this house is going to appreciate in value at 4% a year. Let's say, for example, that doesn't happen. Okay. You're seeing now, right? I'm saying there's no appreciation value in this home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at 80, okay, that's the break even. The mortgage is 600,000. The house is worth 600,000. But you'll see from this point forward, regardless of what the house value is, okay, you're only going to pay back the portion of the reverse mortgage that the house sold for. So if this house, it doesn't go any less than zero. So at this point in time, at age 79, the balance is $567,000. You'd sell the home for $600,000. You'd still walk out of there with $32,000 in your pocket. At 80, there's no more equity left in this home. Regardless of what the balance of the reverse mortgage is, It could be 700, 800, 900,000 at this point. But if you sell the house for 600, you only pay back the bank the 600 because you've paid, because it's a home equity conversion mortgage with mortgage insurance. The mortgage insurance is responsible to pay the shortfall, not the estate, not the heirs. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it
Okay.
does. So the mortgage insurance take care of the difference.
The
That's why
mortgage
the
insurance
mortgage
pays the
insurance is
shortfall.
there.
And for
Uh,
you realtors out there, when you get a listing that already has a reverse mortgage and maybe it's upside down, okay, the servicers will make sure that your commissions and your fees are built into that payoff. So you do get paid. So that's very important.
Another question, Tim. What if a person is in a nursing home and the amount the house sells for must equal paying off the debt and the cost of the nursing home?
Okay, so the nursing home is its own entity, right? So unless there was some sort of a irrevocable trust, a Medicaid protection trust, yeah, the proceeds from the sale of that home could very easily go to the nursing home, but that's irrelevant of the reverse mortgage. And for us, all we want to do is get paid back, just like any other lender, right? We're not a partner on that house. We don't own the home. We're just a lien holder. And when that house gets sold, whatever balance of the mortgage that they borrowed, we would get paid back. Any remaining equity in that home would go back to the estate or to the heirs. If there was a revocable trust, it would go back into the trust. If there was no revocable trust and there was a nursing home bill, well, yeah, the nursing home could take the remaining balance of that equity in the home. That's why, irrevocable trusts are a pretty good tool these days.
Question. Well, not one more, just the next one. Once you have a reverse mortgage, can you sell the house? Thinking the person is thinking of this from an investment perspective. Her 88-year-old neighbor has a very desirable property that she'd be willing to purchase and still give him life rights.
Okay, so with the reverse mortgage, the home that you're taking the reverse mortgage out on has to be your primary residence.
Right.
But Gina, you're bringing up investment scenarios.
Yeah, these are just two different things.
Yeah, two different things. We do have clients that have taken out reverse mortgages on
And
their
bought second
primary
homes.
residence. They've taken that on their primary residence and then used the proceeds from the reverse mortgage to purchase an investment property. So if you're dealing with investors, this might be a way for them to come up with funds to purchase homes. And I have one particular client, he's on his third investment property. He purchased an investment property with through the proceeds of a reverse mortgage, took the rental income, paid down the reverse mortgage, purchased another investment property, took those two rentals, paid down the reverse mortgage, and now he's actually purchasing his third investment property. So through this presentation, okay, I've introduced to you a good lead source would be a divorce attorney, a mediation expert, a builder, okay, in those over 55 communities. Reason being is we can now use a 6% seller concession, okay? And another reason why individuals over the age of 60 are relocating, because they want that new home. They want the bells and the whistles and the upgrades. And with that 6% seller concession, we can help them get those things. And last but not least, if you're working with investors, it may not be a bad idea to take out a reverse mortgage on the primary and then use the proceeds to help purchase those investment properties. Does anybody have any other questions or any particular scenario I could run while I have this up on the screen? Oh, here's a great scenario. For example, Carol, okay, she wants to purchase, let me go back here. Here's Carol. What Carol wants to do is she wants to continue making payments on this home. So what I did is She wants to make payments. She wants to make a $500 a month payment. She is 65. So we said she'd make payments for the next 10 years, 75, but she plans on working. You'll see what that does. It's actually increasing her line of credit that much more. But what she wants to do in the next 5 years or so is purchase a home, a second home in Florida. So at 70, she could withdraw $300,000 from this home here in New York and purchase her second home in Florida. Now she'll own two properties, her main home and her snowbird home, and not have a principal and interest payment. So, and again, going back to the earlier question about a fixed rate and adjustable rate, the adjustable rate allows you to do all of this, where you can make payments, draw it back, pay it back, draw it back. With the fixed rate reverse mortgage, not only does it limit the amount of money you can take out, 60%, but you do not have the flexibility of making payments and drawing money back. Okay, hopefully that just extends the answer to that question as well. Gina, let's go through some more questions.
Someone asked about a million tax, the $1 million tax, right?
Okay.
Would they have to pay that, or are seniors exempt?
Well, that has nothing to do with the reverse mortgage.
Right.
Okay, that's something you may have to ask an elder law, an estate planning attorney, or a CPA, because each state is different. So I'm not too sure I can answer that question.
Okay. And you may have already answered this, but I'm going to say it again. What if the owner dies and there isn't enough to pay off the outstanding loan? How
Okay.
does the lender get paid for the loss? That's where the insurance comes in, right?
That's where the mortgage insurance comes in. So with these home equity conversion mortgages, there's mortgage insurance. So when that house gets sold and it's underwater, the mortgage insurance is responsible to pay the shortfall. Not you, not your estate, not your heirs. The house is responsible to pay back the debt. So whatever the house sells for, pays back the debt. Any shortfall, the lender gets paid back through the mortgage insurance. And if you were a realtor selling a house that's a short sale from a reverse mortgage, you'd be getting paid from that mortgage insurance as well.
Right. What's the cost of the month? Is there a monthly insurance premium with the HECM?
Yes. So it's a 5% at the nominal number divided by 12, right? So it's 1/12 of 5% over the 12-month period.
Mm-hmm. Even if there's 20% equity in the property?
Yes. There's upfront mortgage insurance of 2%, and then there is a small nominal monthly mortgage insurance.
Just like FHA, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay. Can you pay off a reverse and go back to conventional for whatever reason?
Great question. Yes, you can. My recommendation would be is not to pay off the reverse mortgage to zero. Like, for example, in this scenario, if Carol won lotto, right? My advice to her would be is the loan balance is $131,000. I would make a payment to the reverse mortgage of $131,000. I would leave the $950 on the reverse mortgage.
Why?
Whoops. Doing it in year 2, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll see what happens, right? So I would never pay off the reverse mortgage zero and go to a conventional loan. I would pay off the reverse mortgage, leave a balance on the reverse mortgage. So here we're leaving $100, because look what happens to that line of credit. So you still have access to that line of credit. So if and whenever you needed money, okay, you have access to it. Here's a great point, Gina. What the person that was asking the question of what happens if the house values crash.
Yeah.
Check this out. House values crash. guess what? You still have access to that line of credit. So even though this house is only worth $1.2 million, you're hedging your bet. You still have a $1.8 million available line of credit. That is magic. Okay. Here's another tidbit. Remember those hurricanes down in North Carolina and Florida and the fires in California? Well, any individual in those areas that had a reverse mortgage and a line of credit like this, even though their houses did not exist, gone, they still had access to this line of credit. This line of credit is guaranteed, can never be shut down or reduced. As a matter of fact, still has that guaranteed
No house?
rate. No house. And they still have access to that line of credit. So that's why this reverse mortgage is so important and why we really need to consider the reverse mortgage today, not as last resort or last ditch effort, but really so as a retirement income tool. And you as realtors and Gina and I as mortgage professionals, if we can help somebody 65, 70 purchase a home without the obligation of a principal and interest payment, okay, we're changing people's lives and making their lives better in retirement. Before this call, I was on a call earlier. The woman is 83 years old, just lost her spouse. So that, you know what happens when you lose a spouse, right? We lost his pension and we lost a percentage of the Social Security. At 83 years old, she has a $277,000 mortgage. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, it's $5,000 a month. With the reverse mortgage, we're going to eliminate that $3,500 a month payment. Okay. But my point is, they probably took this mortgage out 15, 20 years ago, not thinking at some point in time, something's going to happen to either one or the other one. Right now at 83, she's stuck with this $5,000 a month mortgage payment. And we are giving her the reverse so she can stay at home. Ideally, what we should have done 20 years ago is given them a reverse for purchase. Okay. And she wouldn't be worrying about this right. We're up against the clock. So I was hoping if we had any more questions.
More questions. Can you give an example of how much in dollars the mortgage insurance would be based on a $500,000 property?
So 2%. So the mortgage insurance would be 2 times 5 is $10,000.
Right.
And then you're talking about
monthly?
the monthly mortgage insurance?
Yes.
Let me see if I can figure that out.
You said 0.5%, right?
And 1/12 of 0.5%.
Right.
So it's a nominal number.
Yeah. It would be $212 a month.
It's probably less than that because you're only paying mortgage insurance on the money you're borrowing.
On 500,000?
No, it'd be I believe it's the money you borrow. So even though you may qualify for 500,000, maybe you only borrow 200,000.
Oh, well, I just did on 500,000.
Yeah. Let me see if it shows that.
Well, just let's say if the loan was 500,000.
Yeah.
I think that's the question. So that would be
Yeah.
$212.
So let me
It's
go to my
2,550 for the year on 510.
Yeah, it's a nominal. It's a nominal number. I'm not even sure that 212 is accurate. Trying to find it here on the screen.
If the house is burned down, does the bank readjust mortgage insurance on the interest rate?
No, so if the house burns down, the homeowner's insurance would rebuild the house.
Okay.
Okay. And then
what would you say, and this is my question, right? Because I get this question a lot. What would you say to the heirs? I know we did this presentation before and you did the different buckets, right? What would you say to the heirs that, are just chomping at the bit?
yeah, so it's funny because, the bulk of my referrals come from the children and the heirs because mom and dad are running out of money and the heirs see the writing on the wall that they're going to start chipping in. So they're pretty proactive to the reverse mortgage. But for those heirs that are not, what we try to explain to them is listen, your mom and dad need the money if they want to stay in this home. They can either take the money out of bucket two, their retirement portfolio, pay taxes on that money. And if they take money if they take money out of their retirement portfolio in a down market, that means there's only less in that bucket that may not be able to recoup. The truth of the matter is you have bucket two, which is your retirement portfolio. And then you have bucket three, which is your housing equity, your housing wealth. Homeowners today over the age of 62 are carrying over $14 trillion of home equity. And our conversation with the children are, you really want to leave the money alone in bucket two, because let that grow. Because if your parents use it, they're going to pay taxes on it, possibly a higher tax bracket, going to be less money for you in your inheritance. The idea is, let's look at bucket three, the equity in your home. It's tax-free money. If you borrow $50,000 out of here from your portfolio, you're giving the government $20,000. You're only netting 30. If you take $50,000 of the equity out of your home, you're netting $50,000. Okay. And the idea is your parents are going to need the money either way. Which pocket do you want to take it out of? And at the end of the day, they do it correctly and we coordinate it correctly with the equity and the housing wealth, they probably leave a bigger legacy to their children. And that's the conversation we have with the heirs, right? Let's do the math. Let's figure out what scenario works best.
Right. Do you find that people that do entertain this program are giving their children their inheritance in advance, right?
Yeah. So we have a lot of individuals that say, hey, I would rather share my inheritance, my wealth with a warm hand versus a cold hand. And let's enjoy the time with my children and my grandchildren. Harlan Acola, the director of the reverse mortgage division, every year he has a reverse mortgage. He's not making mortgage payments, so he doesn't make those payments. He's saving that money. He takes 2 weeks every year, 3 children, 3 wives, half a dozen grandchildren, and all expense paid trip. It's got to be 15 of them. He pays for it all. And his point is, I'd rather enjoy this time with my family now than having them go on these trips without me.
Right. Right.
Yes. So there's 3 reasons why people use a reverse mortgage. Number 1, need, right? They're in trouble. Number 2, enhance their lifestyle in retirement, which is kind of why we're on this call, right? Using the equity from the sale of their existing home, purchasing something that in their wants and needs. And then last but not least, and I kind of touch on this a little bit also, is tax strategies, tax advantages. Let's protect and preserve what's in bucket 2 and let that last longer, increase the probability of that money lasting longer in retirement. And let's access this bucket 3, this tax-free bucket. All right.
Mm-hmm. I have a question also. What would you say to the family that's trying to decide on whether their parents should age in place and have long-term care in their property, or dissolving that property only to move them to a nursing home?
So great question. A reverse mortgage is not a short-term type bridge loan. So if there are conversations with the parents on their willingness and ability to be able to function in that home by themselves, and there are active conversations about this, well, then a reverse mortgage may not be the answer to their question. Like if it's imminent that they're going to sell this home in the next year or two because mom and dad can't possibly live there, they can't live there physically or financially, then a reverse mortgage may not be the answer. That's when you guys would come in and you would list that house and maybe help them find something else with the proceeds of the sale of that home. Okay, but if I'm speaking to a client and they think they're going to relocate or sell within a year or two, I'll tell them, then don't take a reverse mortgage out on this house. Let's sell this house and let's do the reverse for purchase on your next home.
One more question. If the person, has a ton of equity, elderly person living in the house, but there's a power of attorney for that
Okay.
person, do they have the authority to get into a reverse mortgage with the power of attorney without, you know,
So yes and no. So with the reverse mortgage power of attorney, they are required, believe it or not, and it's the only loan that requires it. And it's great information for you to know. If you have clients applying for a power of attorney, have them get a doctor's note stating that the individual is of sound mind when that power of attorney is executed. So if we have a power of attorney with that doctor's note, yes, that power of attorney can execute a reverse mortgage on that property on behalf of their family member, I guess, right?
they
We
can
can
do that?
all we can also do a reverse mortgage in a guardianship. We can do a reverse mortgage in a life estate. We can do a reverse mortgage in a revocable and irrevocable trust. Just has to be it has to be the house that they're living in.
Right. This is a question in the chat. Can you take out a reverse mortgage at 100 years old?
We can't discriminate, right? So sure you can. Yeah.
Right. What is the highest LTV that the bank will offer for a reverse mortgage? It goes by age and it
Yeah.
goes by equity, right?
Great
So that
question.
varies.
Yeah. So at age 65, you would qualify for about 35% loan to value. And at age 90, 95, you qualify for about 60 to 65% loan to value.
Okay. If the person is getting reverse mortgage and they're drawing Social Security, that's not affected in any way, is it?
No, no. They can still, it does not affect their Social Security.
Okay.
Let me just stop this share. It does not affect their Social Security. And as a matter of fact, there are ways to manipulate the Medicaid as well. But that's we'd have to have more of an extensive conversation on that before.
Mm-hmm.
But
Does
it
anybody have any more? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim.
does not affect Social Security or Medicare.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions? So when would this not work for someone?
Primarily if they don't plan on staying in the house for an extended amount of time. So,
And
like a lot of people say, oh, Tim, I want a reverse mortgage to put on this house so I can use the proceeds and purchase the next house. And then I'm going to sell this house like in a couple of months. Well, no, my advice would be is no, let's sell your house, right? Let's take the proceeds and let's do it at one time, use a reverse of purchase in the next time. And usually what we'll do is you'll sell one house and we'll go to process in the next house simultaneously.
yeah.
So you sell this home, maybe I forget what it's called, but you'd have an agreement where you could stay in the house for another week or so,
Oh, yeah.
and then
Use of
purchase the next house.
occupancy.
Yeah, that's all.
Uh-huh.
But I would not, a reverse mortgage is not a short-term loan. The closing costs are too expensive for short-term.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any more questions? I think we're pretty much done. I think I shared all the questions in here. I just also want to say that Tim is available if you have, you work with the 62 and older community and you may have a group of these individuals looking to obtain the same information. Tim is always available to host a webinar, possibly do something on site for your sphere of influence. And then he also will do this on a one-on-one consultative approach with the particular client that is interested. It's all about education, you know?
And I promise if you call me back to do a presentation, my original slide will work.
Right.
Gina, if it's okay with you, I just put up my name, email, and phone
Yes.
number. If anybody wants to reach out to me, that's great. And we'll
Mhm.
tie it all back in to Gina.
Awesome. So give me one last thing. Give me a success story that you've seen with listing agents really utilizing this program. Like, give me a good story to
Good
end with.
story. I did have a story, and you threw me off here. So there was a scenario where a woman was selling her home, and it was free and clear, and she was relocating and purchasing. And she was able to sell her home, purchase her other home from the proceeds of the sale, and then the balance of the proceeds, let's say, for example, $1 million home, she bought a $500,000 home, she netted 500,000. She was able to give that 500,000 to her daughter, and her daughter also purchased a home in the same community with her mother. So they went from one house to two houses without a principal and interest payment. And the realtor, right, got a listing and two buyers. That's three transactions. That's a pretty good story.
That's a good story. That's a turkey in bowling.
I'll keep you posted on my 72-year-old and 69-year-old divorced couple. That's just so upsetting, so sad.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're good here.
All right.
That's Tim Kennedy's information in the chat. I can be reached at 732 259 1030. And I look forward to working with you. I hope this information and this time that's set aside was valuable. And yeah, feel free to contact us with any questions.
Hey, thank you, Gina. Thank you. Thank you, everybody on the call. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you.